Welcome. I'm the Digital Abbot. This is not the full visual pipeline yet, but the methodology behind it. DigitalChemy connects directly into the BIM model through MCP, allowing the model to be queried, built, modified, and semantically structured in real time. With Uniclass, Omniclass, Brick, and Kobe layered in, the result is not just geometry, but a model with classification logic, semantic clarity, and operational relevance. This does not replace BIM professionals, but it does come remarkably close to replacing the repetitive parts of their workload. The point is not to remove the expert, the point is to stop using the expert as a very expensive interface between intelligence and a toolbar. Here is the core shift. Revit, through DigitalChemy and MCP, stops behaving like an isolated authoring tool and starts behaving like a live model intelligence environment. We can query the model for parameters and spatial data, analyze it directly inside the native database, modify geometry and visual states through structured commands, and enrich it with semantic intelligence for downstream digital twin workflows. In other words, the model is no longer just a very expensive filing cabinet, it becomes something we can actually talk to. This is where authoring becomes interaction. Traditionally, Revit has been powerful, but not always eager to volunteer its intelligence without a fair amount of manual persuasion. Through DigitalChemy and MCP, that changes. Static drafting becomes live querying, repetitive navigation becomes structured command execution, frozen exports become continuous feedback, and isolated design files become intelligent model nodes prepared for downstream operations. This is the execution layer. The moment Revit stops behaving like a guarded desktop application and starts answering back. Through a live handshake, DigitalChemy can say hello, inject code directly, and trigger real-time responses inside the active model session. That means no export limbo, no batch processing delays, and far less of the industry's traditional pastime of waiting politely for software to cooperate. In practical terms, this is the connection that turns a closed authoring environment into an open, responsive system. This is the query and analysis layer where the model stops hiding its intelligence in polite little parameter boxes and starts giving us structured answers. Through DigitalChemy, we can interrogate the active Revit model for statistics, view data, selected elements, material quantities, room exports, and stored project information, then pull that into clean, usable data arrays. That means faster QA, smarter reporting, and a far more civilized relationship with the model than scrolling through properties one click at a time. This is the creation layer, where natural language starts behaving like a construction assistant with no coffee breaks and remarkably good spatial discipline. Through DigitalChemy, prompts can drive the instant creation of grids, levels, rooms, dimensions, line-based elements, point-based elements, structural framing, and surface-based systems directly inside the model. That means early stage setup, repetitive placement, and system generation can move at machine speed while the human stays focused on intent, logic, and design judgment. This is the modification layer, where the model stops being something we politely work around and starts becoming something we can actively direct. Through DigitalChemy, we can color elements, operate on them, and remove them using rule-based logic rather than manual hunting through the interface. That means dynamic editing, rapid visual coordination, clash highlighting, and model cleanup can all happen with far more speed and precision. Because if a model contains a problem, the solution should not begin with 20 minutes of zooming and sighing. Here, DigitalChemy moves from model control into semantic intelligence. We can filter elements with AI, persist project and room data, apply tags at scale, and enrich the model with structured metadata that supports documentation and lifecycle use. In practical terms, this is where a BIM model becomes less of a geometric performance and more of an operationally relevant asset, because if the intelligence lives outside the model, it usually ends up living in somebody's inbox. This is the live workflow unlocked. Instead of running isolated scripts and hoping they remember each other, DigitalChemy chains query, creation, and semantic tools into coordinated VDC operations. That allows us to review models, extract room intelligence, execute targeted edits, and update documentation in near real time. Because once the model can expose its own logic and respond to instructions, we are no longer just automating tasks. We are orchestrating intelligence. And this is where the story lands. Through DigitalChemy, Revit becomes an ecosystem node inside the larger digital twin pipeline. Live model data can feed compliance logic, simulation environments, QA workflows, and lifecycle management systems, all without waiting for the usual parade of exports and manual rework. Because once the model can respond, enrich itself, and connect downstream, it stops being just a design file and starts becoming infrastructure.